We are live. We're going to let some people come on and join us. And in a second, I will be adding Dean to the broadcast. Wanted to talk today about THP and Icon irons, but more specifically, Ben Hogan ICON irons and how we're going to get people involved. I appreciate everybody joining us. Before we get started, behind my shoulder here, you will see some clubs, one of which is a Ben Hogan Fort Worth utility, and it's got a custom THP shaft. I'm sure some of you people who follow us on social media have seen that. We are giving that away right now on Instagram, and I believe today's the last day to enter. So enter that when you get a chance. I'm going to bring Dean on the show now. Dean, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I see you got a nice little background going with some Masters flags, being that what should be going?
Yeah, I wish it was just getting done Masters week. It would have been fun to actually talk about what was happening at the Masters, but we'll wait until November to do that.
Adam Fonseca is quick to point out that there are minions, actually just individual minion. He's actually holding a Ben Hogan equalizer wedge. Try to dress up the background and different things each day. You know, quarantine life is quarantine life.
That's right. In quarantine life, I actually kind of got dressed today, which is something different for the last probably 3-4 weeks.
As we've noted on the forum, don't stand up because, you know, nobody needs to see the bottom half there.
That's right.
But we are here to talk about Ben Hogan irons. And I know that there's some people who are going to follow along who are interested in finding out how they can get a set. We'll have that coming up in a little bit. But kind of going into the Ben Hogan ICON irons, we saw a rebirth of this brand. Mm-hmm. And it came from, I don't want to say a dark place, but it was, the brand had some struggles. And when they relaunched, they came back and their first set at relaunch was the PTX Pros. And those were nearly universally loved on our forum. Everybody loved them, including me. We did an event around them. We've done multiple things around them. And people were wondering, like, what's next? And we got a glimpse of that when it hit the USGA list. And then we got a full preview of it that you actually wrote about, I think, a month ago.
Yeah, just about a month ago now.
Kind of talk about where the ICON irons came from a little bit.
Well, you know, if you go back even further, where Ben Hogan really was reborn 4 or 5 years ago now, they brought into the Fort Worth irons, which were kind of a player's blade, but, you know, they had some perimeter weighting because of the way they, you know, messed around with the mass. And, you know, I said it in the article, they were Hogan irons, but they weren't really, you know, the old classic Hogan irons, the Apex.
No,
irons.
Other than a logo, it really was not the thing.
It really wasn't. And, you know, I joked around in the article. I said they weren't your father's Hogan irons, but these ones, the icons, kind of are my father's Hogan irons, which actually are right here. We'll get to those later.
Yeah, I can actually give somebody a quick teaser there. If they
there's a quick picture from them yesterday. Those are the 73 Hogan Apex irons, which I believe were the second Apex irons that they made. But so now the ICON irons, they're following in that tradition of, well, Apex isn't the name anymore. A bladed iron is Hogan. That's when you think of Hogan irons. At least I do. I think of bladed irons that, you know, for recreational golfers might be difficult to hit. But for the accomplished player, there's something that they're really going to enjoy. And that's what these irons are aimed at.
It's funny you mentioned that the accomplished player and the muscle back side of it, because genuinely, when I took up golf, my first set was a set of Hogan irons, and they were the Apex 2s. Okay. And they weren't muscle backs. I believe those were, God, I'm old, but they were a slight small perimeter cavity, and they offered some weighting, and it was a set that really kind of drew me in because my first set I ever bought for myself were Tommy Armour 845s, but these are what, you know, we're putting in my hands to learn how to hit the ball. Still haven't learned, but you know, neither here nor there. Most people, though, when they think of Ben Hogan irons, they do think of the blades and a certain look that is, I don't want to say discerning, but almost industrial, that says, try to hit this.
Yeah, and the ICON irons, from what we've seen so far, they're very clean looking. You know, they have very minimal offset, a super thin top line, which is enough to make some players just shiver looking down at it. Yeah. You know, a compact shape. So, you know, when you're comparing it to even something like the PTX Pro or even the Edge irons that they have, which, you know, they might be like that. These are going to be a little more like that. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see.
Mike just asked a question that I splashed up on the screen there. It says, do we have a size comparison? I don't, but I can post one on the forum side by side, and you can kind of see what you're looking at from the top line and heel to toe, because there are differences, but they were both small.
Yes.
I actually think that the Icon irons, weight wise, make more sense to me than the Fort Worths do. But that's a area I don't necessarily want to head down.
No, we've had plenty of discussions about the Fort Worth irons, especially when they were rumored to be coming out and they came out, and we don't need to really rehash all of that.
Yeah. So diving in a little bit to the Icon irons, kind of talk about the different tech that you kind of you kind of explored for this feature.
Okay, so first off, we are talking about a forged club head. Hogan has been synonymous with great feeling irons, and that's what you're going to get with these. There's the quote from Ben Hogan that, you hit a good forged iron, the feeling goes up the shaft, up the arm, and into your heart. So that's really what they're aiming at with these. They want them, first and foremost, to look good and to feel fantastic.
Now, I will say before you continue, mine goes up the club, up my arm, and into this pain in the cockles of my heart. So to quote Dennis Leary from years ago, it says, "Wow, you really missed that thin."
Yeah, I know that feeling quite well. I can't exactly dig it out of the dirt like Hogan, but I could take massive divots and dig like crazy. So,
okay.
but speaking of that,
next story,
we think of digging like crazy. On the sole of the club, they have the V-sole. And what the V-sole is a higher bounce leading edge, a softer, more relief on the trail edge. That's really going to help with that turf interaction, whether it's in the fairway, whether you're coming from the rough, if you happen to be in a fairway bunker. It really offers a lot of relief. If you're a digger, it helps get that sole through and not get stuck. So someone like me, that is actually a pretty fantastic piece of technology.
Before I splash that question out, where is it? Somebody just asked, are those icons sitting over my left shoulder? Left shoulder? No, those are equalizer wedges and the Ben Hogan Fort Worth utility that we're giving away currently on Instagram that has a custom THP recoil shaft.
All right, and the next big piece of tech on it is what they call the progressive center of mass. So what we've seen kind of with wedge design on other companies in recent years, where, as you get to the higher wedges, the center of gravity raises. That's what they've done with these irons. So they've got a weight pad on the back, which you could see in the photos. It's a clean looking design, but you can kind of tell where the mass is being put.
Yeah.
And so as you get down to your scoring clubs, you really have a higher center of gravity to help keep the launch down and give you a little bit more control. And as you get down towards, the 4, 5, 6 iron, the center of gravity is lower. So that ball gets up in the air, gets plenty of spin, and, get you to drop the ball right next to the pin.
And that's something you meant, the weight shift in irons in general, irons and wedges, is something that is often overlooked in irons as something that's happened later on through modern technology. The ability to do that through other materials such as tungsten, such as shaping, things like that. When people say musclebacks or musclebacks, that's not really the case. And I'll use an example of a different brand, which was Cleveland wedges. For years, Cleveland had a center of gravity location towards the heel side a little bit, and it was known as the player's miss, when you miss a little towards the heel. And part of that was because more weight came up through where the hosel was. I know that area pretty well too. You would naturally shift weight over, and that's what happened. What Hogan's been able to do here is really intriguing with the weight shifting side of things in an iron that normally you don't expect that kind of action. You just expect what you see is what you get.
Yeah, you would expect to see a lot of talk of weight shifting and weight savings and repositioning of mass in a club head that's a lot bigger than what the Icon's going to be. So it is pretty impressive to see what they've done with these.
The question to answer, Mike, is Score, Hogan, Eidolon. The TK design kind of brought the V-sole. It is synonymous with a lot of clubs now. And the people who like it love it for clean contact.
I really liked it, going back to the TK design on Score wedges. I had some of those in the bag, really liked it then. There's been some variations. Srixon's had a variation of the V-sole. I enjoy playing some of those irons as well. And the RTX3, I think it was, had those, that design too. So it's something that, like you say, if you enjoy it, you really like it and you really believe in it. And I am a believer in it, so I can't wait to see what it's like in these.
Before we jump back into kind of club building stuff, we get questions all the time about what shafts are in this. And because I'm going off memory, I'm going to recite them now because they're on the top of my mind. If I screw these up, I apologize to Ben Hogan Golf, but I think I have it nailed. In your steel options, you have KBS Tour V and KBS Tour 90 and True Temper DG. I don't think you could have this set of clubs without having the dynamic gold option. And I have a feeling that's going to be very popular in these. And then in the composite graphite side, you have UST Recoil 760 and 780. I played the 780 for close to a year and liked those a lot before I moved to the Recoil 95 Protos. So while you don't have a ton of options, and I know people are going to say, hey, I wish they had more than 3 options, they do have a little something for everybody there.
Yeah, I played the 780s for a little bit. They're a good set of shafts. I've been a KBS guy. I've been a KBS Tour guy. They don't have the KBS Tour regular. They have the Tour V. I have pretty much zero experience with the Tour V.
You have a question here from Shane.
How small is the head, Dean? That's a weird question, Shane. It's compact. It's what
it's
you would
about the
expect
size
from your contact
blade. Technically replacing that, you're going to find a similar size.
I would think it'd be just slightly smaller than the PTX Pro, going off what I believe. And, Shane is actually somebody who's won something on the forum. He's going to be going to Club Champion to get fit for a set of Ben Hogan irons. So he obviously has a vested interest in this. And, the Hogan irons, they shouldn't get overlooked. They do have custom fitting programs now with Club Champion, which is pretty big for them.
Kevin asked this question: do they plan on expanding the shaft offering in the future? I'm not sure from a direct-to-consumer standpoint that that's the best model to go from, other than just stacking yourselves with inventory, because no matter what you offer, there's always going to be something less. So what they've done is they've partnered with Club Champion, and I'm hopeful Icons end up there. I know PTX Pro is in there now, where the shaft offering is nearly endless.
Yeah, it's we've seen it. We've gone to a lot of companies out there in the past, and companies just have to buy stock and boxes of shafts. And for somebody like Hogan, it probably just doesn't make sense, like you say.
Take some questions here. Can a hacker play these? JB Cobb, I would say a hacker should play anything that they want if it makes them happy. If you're looking for my advice on something that is going to help you better your game, I think the edge irons are one of the most overlooked in that category in all of golf. So I would suggest those, but that's going to be up to the individual.
And I'm going to try.
A question for you.
Any thoughts on the degrees posted on the sole rather than the number?
You don't have to read these out loud. They can all see them too.
Oh, well, perfect. Well, read it to me. I'd like that. I actually like the number better than the number, the degrees on the sole. I wasn't a big fan of that. That was another thing that came over from that Idle score. Yeah, it was just a little, I don't know. It was a little much for me. And these are such a clean, classic looking set of irons. It'd be nice to just have the regular number on there, club number that is. But speaking of lofts, Hogan's been very strict about, degree separation. They have a 4-degree separation throughout the set. They're not out there chasing distance, and you're definitely not going to be chasing distance with these irons.
So speaking of that and their different sets, if you're not listening to the Golf Unfiltered podcast, he's part of the THP Radio Network, and he recently had Scott White, the CEO of Ben Hogan Golf, on, and he says Icons will be in Club Champion, but more importantly, during that show, they talked about combo sets. Does this set scream combo set to you with the PTX Pros?
It's a combo set that I would definitely entertain. The bladed irons sound
scary.
Yeah, I mean, any 4-iron sounds scary to me. But
I can get down with that.
If you could do the PTX Pro in 4, 5, maybe 6, maybe even 7, and then go 8, 9 wedge in Icon, that sounds like it could be a real winner.
It very well could be. Question for Dean from Kevin.
See, I'm not reading it out loud this time. That's a good question. I know they've had their shipment times have been a little bit delayed because of everything that's going on right now. the current state of golf is crazy. If I was to tell you that it was going to really hammer them, or they would wade through the waters, I'd be lying, because I just don't know, and I really don't think anybody out there does. It's very uncertain times right now.
I have some different thoughts on that, and like Dean said, mine's no more correct than anybody else. Lean and mean is what the golf industry is in general. I know people see these companies and they assume they have thousands and thousands of employees. They don't. Ben Hogan's no different. If you guys knew the number of people working at Ben Hogan, it would scare you how small it is. They work hard, but they work really efficient. I would say that part of their success is going to be around their next launches and this launch, as well as the partnership with Club Champion, because it's a vested interest if you can hit these side by side and like what you're getting and then see a price difference.
I think the Club Champion partnership, or just getting in the door Club Champion, is huge for them, because there's always been the interest in Ben Hogan. That name means something in golf. It really does. It went away for a little bit, but it came back, and you could see it when it came back. It definitely resonates with people. But the direct-to-consumer model for, I'm going to say, golfers, at least up here in the Northeast, the older market, doesn't necessarily fly. They want to be able to see the club. They want to be able to hit the club. And if you're not being able to do that at a demo day or just go to the store, you need to find a place to do it. And Club Champion being all over the country certainly helps.
And, it's the model that's made this iteration of Ben Hogan successful, because the last one, which was trying to be a green grass premium luxury brand, just did not have the ability to do so and be successful. Somebody asked if they're going to be available in black. Yes, they are. You should read Dean's article. It was quite good. No, I'm kidding. Yes, they're going to be available in both. I think they are both in stock right now, although limited. They will have more coming in soon. Xavier would like to know about the profile. What would you compare them with?
Something scary. Profile as opposed to how you're looking down at it, if that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, I would say Apex MB is the first thing that comes to my mind because of the different weight around. I wanted to ask people in general, when you think of Ben Hogan, and you can leave your comments there or post them in the forum or social media after. When you think of the Ben Hogan golf equipment, what do you think of? What are the things to think? Dean mentioned forgings. I think clean. I think classic. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about, this kind of brand. And before we go on, I want to say we mentioned the combo sets that Golf Unfiltered had talked about. There's something else coming in May that we can't tell you guys about yet, but Ben Hogan has something new. And when they do, we're going to have Tyler from Ben Hogan come join us and discuss all of that along with these as well.
That sounds pretty exciting. I'll be here for it.
Does Ben Hogan, they already have metalwoods. I would say that if you follow their life cycle being every couple or in some cases longer, it would be a little bit before we'd see another release. But the GS53 was a pretty darn good driver.
Yeah, their metalwood line, actually, I was skeptical when they announced they were going to go in that direction. And
me too.
You know that. But they were actually pretty solid. That the driver, James did a heck of a review on the driver on the forum. If anybody wants to read that or look for that thread, it really performed quite well.
So I'm looking at the things people say: classic, value, quality, beauty, vintage styling, traditional, premium value, stunning to look at, high quality. This is an interesting one that stuck out to me because I kind of agree. At the same time, I don't even think of it that way anymore.
I mean, I have to agree because they were in my dad's basement growing up, so they were the old person clubs. But yeah, you know what? I think the logo helps lean that way too. The old signature of Ben Hogan. I don't know why that reminds me of an older style. Now they have the little bullseye bullet with the BH on it that's been around still forever, but I think it's a little more prevalent now. But the signature just reminds me. I think
that's called the Sunburst.
Classic, the Sunburst. There you go. I think the signature to me always kind of hits as an older style. Yeah.
So another interesting aspect is, how does this club get into hands? And Neil asked a question about, are we seeing a success in the demo program as Ben Hogan? And I can answer that because I asked that question. And the answer is yes. People try the clubs, genuinely like them, and then either purchase or at least keep them in consideration. that's a question for you guys. What do you guys think of demo programs like that? I know that some of the smaller brands offer that, and I've always wondered how the success is, because every company always says it's great. Are you a person who would do that? Would you send off for a couple of clubs and see how they were? I don't know. I don't know if I would.
I've thought about it, but I've never pulled the trigger. Yeah, you know, I can't ever get over that hump of doing it. I don't know. I don't think it's my thing, because at least the ones that I've looked at before, you're not getting a full set of irons. You know, if I want to test a set of irons, you know, I want to test the full set of irons. I'm not a fan of just getting, you know, the 8 iron or 7 iron sent to me.
We know that well, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't, it's hard, especially with a set like this, where they're talking about, you know, the change in mass properties. It's hard to get a feel for it if they just give you a 7 iron.
Now, we actually got information on that during their player testing, because a lot of times with player testing that, you know, they'll take out a 7 iron, for instance, to the range and test it out and gives feedback. But in this case, you got feedback from the Ben Hogan Golf Company that it was pretty much standard across the board, right?
Yeah, I think they kept saying the word "wow." You know, players really loved the flight they were seeing in the 4 iron. They loved the 6 iron, and when it got to the pitching wedge, they loved being able to keep that ball launching low and helping control the spin and really getting some versatility out of those clubs. Because let's face it, they're shot maker clubs, so you need to be able to work the ball, whether it's left or right or high and low. And that was the feedback they were getting. They could pull off player testing. They could pull off the shots, whatever they needed to, with all the clubs straight down the line. And that's pretty impressive.
Now, I'm a person that does not like to work the ball as much on the golf course, but I do really like to flight it high and low. You know, depending on different shots, despite the fact that I live in Florida and I play mostly flat courses. A lot of times, due to design, you have elevated greens, or I end up in a slightly weird thing, and I accomplish that by flighting the ball high and low. With a lot of the iron sets I've played over the last few years, that makes it a little more complicated, because I like something that is super forgiving, since I don't get to play golf much anymore. When I tested the PTX Pros, that was no longer an issue. Flighting it was not a problem, on whether I wanted to or not. Did you see a similar thing over the time of using those? Or any clubs in this category, I should say?
Any club in this category. It's, you know, in this category, when I've dabbled with blades or something that's really a player style club in the past, I've had issues getting the ball high, which is interesting for me, because anybody who played with me knows that I hit the ball pretty high. So that was a little different for me. And you talk about being able to flight it as you play something that's super forgiving. Yeah, we've definitely seen that. You know, companies suck that center of gravity back. They push that weight back, and the ball just goes straight up in the air, which is why we see stronger lofts. But I don't really want to.
You don't want to head down that road.
I don't want to start down that road right now.
Xavier asked if we'll see anybody gaming these on tour. In my opinion, no. And that's has nothing to do with quality, but the 100th ranked player in the world is going to ask a lot of money for these. And that's, when you're not in golf stores, that's a lot of money to make back.
Yeah, I don't think that keeps it from being a tour caliber iron, but
yeah, and I should say that there are
out there.
They do have clubs on tours, but you are not going to see the Ben Hogan staff bag with the set of irons and them touting somebody using it on tour.
Yeah, that kind of goes against the direct to consumer story that we hear, that a lot of the way the prices get higher is because companies have to pay for players to wear a hat, carry the bag, have the clubs, and that cost gets pushed onto the consumer. So that's why these come in at $770 for the satin or the chrome nickel, and then the $800 for the 800 for the DBM finish. So, I mean, the price is very attractive if you're looking to get into a set of bladed tour caliber irons.
Let me ask you a question that I've been thinking about a lot in regards to these and the PTX Pros being available at Club Champion. Now, one of the things we get feedback on about Club Champion is I go there, I test some stuff out, and yes, it's clear that this head and this shaft made the best difference to me, but the cost was too high. I just couldn't get into spending an extra $500 for a set of irons. Does this set coming in at under $800 alleviate that a little bit, to where even if they were to go with the most expensive iron shafts out there, you're still less than the cost of a number of different irons?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it really shows the options that either are in Club Champion or, just out there in the golf space. There's a lot of shafts out there that are uber expensive, but it
And
doesn't mean the
really good.
performance. Yeah, and really good. It doesn't necessarily mean the performance for me when I go in is going to be better than a shaft that's, $100 or $150 for a driver shaft or a fairway wood shaft. And so I think so. You could probably pair a little bit less expensive iron set with a more expensive shaft if that's what you're into and that's what fits you the best.
Right.
So it would definitely help. And, comparing the head towards a shaft, like we're saying, the head's a little cheaper. So if you were looking at, company A that had a blade that you were getting really good numbers of, but that combo was going to be more expensive, you could go back to the Ben Hogan brand and find something, I bet you, that's going to be extremely comparable.
Yeah, I'll use the reason that this came up is when I was at Club Champion the last time, somebody was getting fit and they were getting dialed in for a set of TaylorMade irons. And the set was pretty much a set of muscleback or near muscleback. They weren't musclebacks. They were a very thin perimeter cavity. Okay. And the set was about $1,200 or $1,300. And then the shafts were probably $40 a piece, $50 a piece. You multiply that by 7 now, I guess is the real number for a set. And you're looking at $350 plus $1,200 or whatever it is. And that math's a little weird too, because you're not getting shafts and grips, but
carry the 2. Yep.
Yeah. You're all of a sudden you're at $1,800 or so. And I'm looking at it. I'm thinking, player's cavity. I'm sure it's a feel thing. Maybe it's a brand thing. You take a look at this and all of a sudden that $350, this set comes in at $1,000, maybe $1,050. Wow, that sounds pretty good. Now, that's not a sales pitch for me because I want somebody to go get fit and get fit into what they get fit into. But that's got to be a deal breaker. Now, I will add one more thing, and then I want your feedback. When these launched, when the Ben Hogan brand relaunched, a lot of the clubs that were hitting the market were $1,200 and $1,300. You had your Apexes, you had your 790s, you had all these other clubs. And I'm not taking anything away from those clubs. They're phenomenal. Now, this year, we had the two biggest companies in golf launch irons at $799. Does that change this at all?
I don't know.
I mean, they're different categories.
They're different categories. I don't think so, because I still think if some of those bigger brands, if we talk about the Callaway and TaylorMade, whenever they release their next Apex line or their next P790 line, I still think the price is still going to be up there in that 13,
it will be.
14. Yeah. So I don't think it necessarily changes everything for here. It might, if that, I mean, those are going to be hot sellers at that price.
Yeah.
And these are going to be, they're just two different category of clubs, though.
Yeah,
so it's strange.
And kind of putting you on the spot because, a Maverick Pro, I'll use that one as an example, is a fantastic set of irons based on the feedback. I've actually only hit 1 7-iron once, but the feedback on our forum is fantastic. But that's not the same as a muscleback set. Nobody's going to confuse
right. Them. Yeah. So, I mean, if you were to compare these to the Tiger irons, you're what, $500 cheaper? No, more than that. Cheaper than the Tiger irons.
Yeah,
so,
you're at $700 cheaper.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods should do one of two things for me to make that difference up. 1, come play around with me. Or 2, his little black book sounds awesome too if I wasn't married.
I think both are punishment. I don't know.
For him, definitely. We talked a little bit about we're going to give a set away. You were going to be testing these. I assume you still want to test these.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to be able to play golf first, but yes.
Yeah. So you'll be testing these out, and we're going to have your set shipped out, and we're going to have somebody else join you in that with the forum feedback. What kind of person are you looking for tester-wise? Like, what criteria do you want?
I want somebody that is going to be able to play golf quite a bit.
Good start.
Whether it's, the first few weeks we're all stuck inside in a good part of the country. But, be able to play golf, be a once a week minimum golfer. Make sure you're somebody that's active on the forum. We want somebody that's going to be able to provide feedback and keep the conversation going, because as we've seen, we've had some good products in the past that get elevated to, almost like cult-like status when people really start talking about it constantly. And
PTX, the original PTX was like that.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be fun to have somebody that plays quite a bit of golf, that's pretty active. And it'd be nice to have somebody that is actually in that handicap range. That's probably the target for this. But I don't think that's a necessity. I think everybody that wants to try a set of these should make sure they enter.
Yeah, I would agree. Otherwise, we're going to have to give your set away. So the way we're going to do this is the only rule we have, well, there's 2 rules. 1, you have to be a forum member. 2, you have to be an Albatross Club member. And Dean and myself are going to start a thread on the THP Forum today. In fact, probably a half hour when this ends, it'll be up. And what do you think? Maybe an audition will say, give us in 50 words or less, 20 words or less, why you're a good reviewer?
Yeah, 50 words is a lot to read. But
it is.
Yeah. I like that idea. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, why you'd want these irons and why you should be picked for it. What is it about you that leaps off the page that makes these irons go in your bag?
Yeah, and Monday we will pick a tester, and Ben Hogan, not the man, will be putting these together for us and shipping them out directly to you. So again, play golf, be a THP Forum member, and be an Albatross Club member. If you're following along and don't know what the Albatross Club is, it's our subscription service. It's not a subscription. It costs $35 a year. That money goes to a wonderful, wonderful charity in St. Jude. We do testing and giveaways all year long for our members, and we hope to support them even bigger and better every single year. Anything else you want to add, or we pretty much covered all the tech and everything else? We're excited about this set.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about this set. It's nice. I mean, like I said, I've had these in my basement forever, and you posted a picture up of them. And it's going to be kind of cool to actually put a set in my bag and just feel like I'm a little kid again. Really?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to side by side. I mean, you got to hit 2 8-irons side by side and give us the feedback. You have a launch monitor.
I mean, the shaft is a little rusty. I don't know if you could pick up on that.
It probably holds up. What is that? Is that True Temper?
This, you know what? The band isn't even on it anymore. It's like completely melted away. But it looks like it kind of just says Ben Hogan on it. So likely it's a True Temper product, though.
And I should add one more thing for the people signing up. You will be able to choose one of the shafts that we mentioned earlier and get the set customized the way you want. So we're excited about this. We are going to do a full set of icons, though. We're not going to do a combo set for this testing because we want feedback on the icons.
Right.
Well, we want to thank Dean for coming on. We want to thank Ben Hogan for donating a couple of sets. And we will be on the forum shortly, guys, to start this thread and get you guys signed up to see who's going to join Dean in testing them.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.